Hey, good to see you all. I'm Christoph. I'm the founder of Kind Humanoid. It's a company now, but actually it all just started in a garage. And it actually was in the garage for 3 years. I sometimes joke and I call it my extended COVID lockdown because I started this project 2020 and then I just stayed in the garage and built this humanoid you see here on the screen. So what is a humanoid? In my definition, I'd say it's a machine that can sense like a human, it can act like a human, but hey, then there's also this in between sensing and acting. It should also be able to reason like a human, because only then it can get really useful. Some would also say it should exactly look like a human. I don't think that's necessary. Let's make sure it can do what a human can do, so it can help us in all kinds of things, but it doesn't have to look like it, because otherwise, I mean, like, it's not that I sent my humanoid up here to give the talk, it's me. Yeah? So, but today, since we're at Maker Faire, I thought, why not talk a little bit what makers potentially contribute into this field? Because it feels like a humanoid is so freaking complicated to build, and it's these large corporations that take on this challenge now. It's like Tesla, for example, taking on this challenge. But I don't think it has to be that way, that it's only in those hands to build the future here. And let me motivate this a little bit. So these are kind of the big corporations out there building humanoids. On the very left here, you see the Tesla robot. And when you look at it, they like to give you this illusion that these systems are ready to be around us, are ready to help you in your home, are ready to help in elder care and all this. But it's actually not really that along yet. We are now at a stage where those systems can be useful in applications like in industrial settings, so they can help us move boxes around, they can help put batteries from A to B, things like this. It's still very industrial machines, these humanoids you see here on the screen. I feel like the real potential of a humanoid comes out when we make it a machine that can be around us, that can help in medical settings, that can help in elder care, that can help in homes, in all these settings. So these are kind of just some inspirational ways I feel like these systems can help us. They can help us pave a faster path to renewable energies. They can help us in, I mentioned the healthcare setting, like here in this example you see in physical therapy, something like this, or also in hospitality, just have more services around us. And where are kind of the shortcomings right now? So we see these humanoids built today, but still we don't see them in everyday life. So where's kind of the shortcoming? And one of the shortcomings is, I feel like, for example, the hands. The hands, when you think about if there's a true difference between a human hand that is this super interesting construct between soft and hard robotics in a way, but most robotics hands, they're still built from metals with bearings, so they're very mechanical, and turns out they're actually not reaching the performance of human hands. No one in this world has figured out how to build a device that is as capable in terms of dexterity, in terms of strength, in terms of speed as a human hand. And so, hey, here's an opportunity to build stuff, to make stuff, and that's why I'm showing this prototype here, because it's so close to the makerspace, right? This is actually just a two-material print on a super old FlashForge printer. It's with TPU, and so this hand here is actually a hand that has some flexibility integrated. It's living hinges, joints. I'm not saying that this is necessarily the future, but what I'm saying is we need to figure out ways to build hands differently than we see them today built in these big corporate efforts. Then this is also a super makery prototype, and it's actually a prototype for skin. So if your humanoid just has a plastic cover, like a laptop or so, it doesn't have the performance like a human, right? It doesn't sense when you touch it. It doesn't sense when it bumps into something slightly. So let's figure out a way that we can make these systems more context aware, that the systems have a sense of touch. And so here is actually a super fast prototype of its conductive TPU printed on a printer again. and it uses, you see the copper lines here, so it uses to sense the change in resistance, to give it its sense of tactile. But this is also a prototype that was built in a couple of hours. But turns out there is no off-the-shelf solution out there yet to cover robot and tactile sensing. There isn't. So there's a huge opportunity to build stuff, to try out stuff, to make stuff, and see what works. And then, of course, there's this whole side of design. How is a system gonna look like? Because we want to potentially invite us into our homes, and right now the humanoids build are mostly focused in industrial settings, so it actually doesn't really matter how this looks. And so we actually took on this design relationship with Yves Behar, who's a very renowned industrial designer, and this was one of the concepts we made, and so we are building now towards something like this. You see the double reference in a way. Who of you knows René Magritte, the surrealist, the painter? Not many, okay. So he has this painting where he draws a pipe, and then he writes under this in French, "Ceci ne pas une pipe," this is not a pipe. And it's a little bit also here that we play with this illusion. So it has kind of these humanoid traits, it has these human traits, but it is not a human. So it's kind of a surreal world actually that we are entering here. And I feel like there's an opportunity in how do we position the design and all this. Actually, speaking so much about inviting humanoids potentially into our homes, can I play a quick game with you guys here? So you can also pull it up on your phone. The site is humanoidmesh.com. I just coded this up last weekend for fun. And I don't know if you guys remember the original site Mark Zuckerberg programmed up before he programmed Facebook. It was Face Mesh, where he kind of, you had to compare basically two people. And I feel like, so why not just bring this into the world of humanoids? And you guys help me figure out how we should design these systems. So it's just showing pictures of random humanoids that were built in industries or in research labs or in sci-fi. And how do we do this? Do you just want to point with your arm to one side or to the other, and you tell me which one of those you would rather invite into your home? So this is, if you point this, is it the blue one? Just so I get it right. Okay, so I reverse it, so I click the blue one. Thanks. How about here? Okay, it's also, again, very, very unanimous here. The voting. Let's do one more here. Oh, okay, now we have the other side. This time we have chosen Sophia. Okay, oh, it's also a fun one. Okay, clearly the Star Wars one is the winner here, which is kind of fun because this is actually a humanoid that is now being deployed into industries, right? Okay, but we can play this forever. You guys can check it out on humanoidmesh.com. Let's just look at the leaderboard here, actually, what others... Okay. Sometimes I feel like the site gets boycotted, but hey, it's the people have chosen. Okay, let's scroll through the leaderboard here. This is actually interesting, right? Because here Asimo was kind of built already in 2000, more than 20 years ago, and it's still apparently spearheading what people want in their homes. Okay, lots of sci-fi references. Cool, let's go back to the presentation. Maybe, I don't know, so often the question comes up, why should it be a humanoid? Why not a specialized robot? So just allow me to give the quick answer here from my side. Is so often in history we see that industries start with lots of specialized devices, and then it consolidates towards the device. I think an amazing example is the PC, where previously you had rocket guidance computer, Pong playing, game playing computers. You had all these specialist compute systems, and then someone was crazy enough and say, no, let's build a PC that can do it all with the right kind of operating system on it. Similar thing, frankly, happened with the smartphone revolution. Before we had all these pocket devices. I mean, who of you still has a point-and-shoot camera? We don't, right? It's really... where we consolidate. And this also, I feel, is going to be the future in robotics, that right now we have all these specialized systems for farming, industrial, a Roomba that vacuums your house, but then why not build a system that can do it all and then actually can scale? So that's the motivation here. Yeah, let me share a little bit how this pursuit is started out. So this was actually the first time I screwed the legs on the torso. Here you see the system being teleoperated. So this compliance of the system is actually really important for everyday settings. It's not a sign of weakness. Here you see it walk for the very first time. It's taking still very small steps, but this is actually at 3% of the motor power. There's so much more in it. Here the whole body teleoperated. Oh, do we have volume? Because this would be kind of fun for this example. Okay, then I just say, so I basically said, I'm thirsty. I did not say, hey, please pick up the water bottle and give it to me. I said, I'm thirsty. And then the robot made this action plan of picking up the water bottle and giving to me. And I can talk a little bit about this more afterwards with this large language model integration, because that's really what enables. Unfortunately, you can't hear it, but here the robot is actually talking a little bit what it wants to do for humanity in the future. So here my daughter asked for the Christmas present. That was Christmas 2022. The star of the show is sitting right here. Oh, where is my son? Oh, yeah, here's my son controlling the robot. Luca, wave. All the way in the back with grandma. Okay, you see it was really a home effort with the kids around and stuff. And Naya, the robot you saw there, you saw the internals. It was this endoskeleton, it was exposed electronics, exposed motors, nothing covered up. So of course we now go the route in terms of, okay, let's build it in a way that it can actually be also around people, that it gets covered up, that it gets safe for both sides, for the robot and for the people. And so this is kind of the next version here coming alive. You see a breakout of the internal joints. It's these rotary joints. And also here, actually, these joints are not hell complicated. We designed the circuit boards in-house. It is drone motors. It is polymer gears. So this stuff, it's not out of the realm for hobbyists. I mean, you see often the big companies building these prototypes that cost $100,000. It doesn't have to be that way. And it's also building these cost effectively is really a strength for the future, because then it can help us bring labor in a more cost effective way. Let me show you a little bit what it can do with its hands these days and how this behavior is learned. So here again with the two stars, Luca and Eva, the robot arm playing with them. And this is now a task that is actually executed fully autonomously. We trained it a couple of times, how do I deal with flowers, but then it could actually do this fully autonomously. And it's kind of magic. If it drops the flower, it actually tries to pick it up again, and it does this fully autonomously. Yeah, this is actually a raw egg, so. And this is an important feature we are developing right now. So this is one of our core developments. What you see here, I mean, it looks like a simple task. The robot picks up the ball and puts it in a bucket. But the interesting thing here that this task is learned from a video, just from a video. And that's kind of fun. When you think about it, if you manage to teach robots just from watching videos, we could put them in front of YouTube all day. And then they can start to learn all these different tasks and abilities just from watching YouTube videos. And there's a lot of on video, right? Like about how to fix the light of any different car, for example. All this knowledge is out there. And if we enable these robots to learn from this modality, that kind of really opens up this world of not just industrial robots, but actually robots that can help us in all kinds of settings. So this is what we're excited about. This is what we're developing. And I promised before I go a little bit under the hood. How did this actually work? That I just say, hey, I'm thirsty, and then the robot gives me a water bottle. That's because it is basically powered, the reasoning engine in the system is powered by a large language model. And you need to give this large language model just enough context. You give it the context of what the robot sees. You give it the context of what the robot can do. You give it the context of what the user says. And then this amazing reasoning machine of the language model can put all this together and come up with an action plan. So it is this engine that decides then, okay, let me execute the action of picking up the bottle and giving it to the user. And there's, in a way, if you think it through, there's no limit how far we can go here. I mean, eventually, just as a thought experiment, think about you ask your robot, hey, help me make the world a better place. And then the robot reasons through, yeah, maybe it would help to fight climate change, maybe it would help kind of go to renewable energies. Oh, let me actually help you mount some solar panels on your roof, or something like this, right? This reasoning power really enables a super high-level thinking here. And probably a little bit too nerdy to think about. I'm just totally a big fan of neuroscience and always a little bit of a side project of mine. And so I feel like we are now in an era again where we should learn again from neuroscience how did nature so powerfully create us powerful systems and bring this into the tech of neural networks. Because right now, when you just think about this one foundation model, it is this one huge inference network that does these super complicated inferences. That's not gonna actually run every single action of the robot. There also needs to be a fast network, and this is where I want to take inspiration from neuroscience, where we also have a prefrontal cortex that does this high-level reasoning, but then we have all these reflexes and lower-level reasoning that helps us actually succeed at the task. So that's actually what I want to show last year a little bit. It is an aspirational video. So we put this video out a few weeks ago, and it shows basically, think about it is a humanoid robot that is a full-on doctor. So that sounds surprising to most of you, hopefully, because so far we think about robots as these systems that help with very mundane tasks. We want them to do our laundry. In the factories, we want them to put screws somewhere. But who of you asked ChatGPT kind of a medical question at some point, or a question where you actually wanted to help on a more higher level, right? Not only mundane tasks. And here we are combining this ability of the high-level reasoning capability of language models with the ability to act. And that's really where I see the opportunity for the future, that we build humanoids not just to do the dull and dumb stuff, but also to help us in ways we didn't think possible before. And this synthesis is happening right now, and it's fun experimenting with it. That's it from what I wanted to share. Happy to chat.
Awesome. Does anyone have any questions? Please raise your hand. I'll come over to you with a microphone. And yeah, let's give a round of applause.
Well, if you're so convinced that if you put a robot in front of YouTube all day and they can just learn these tasks, then why can't you put your child in front of YouTube? Because, I mean, you're always fighting against my point, right? That you can learn stuff from the internet, right? But of course, there's bad things, but there's also good things, right? So
I'm glad we finally have an audience for this argument. Because actually, I gotta say, it's actually phenomenal. I mean, when I have a conversation with my 11-year-old daughter, I'm just like, how does he possibly know so much, right? I think of myself as an 11-year-old running around in the woods, having no idea, and I talk to her and I'm like, wow. And it is true, right? There's so much knowledge out there these days that is presented in a way that we can ingest it. And I think it's wonderful if we use all these resources, and I also think it's wonderful you use these resources. I just want to be the dad who helps you with the balance.
Hi, excellent presentation and aspirations. One question under the hood a bit. To what extent have you been able to use LLMs to employ in the dynamics of the mechanics in real-time interaction dynamics, particularly in the walking aspects and the ground contact and managing? They may not seem too suitable for that, so I'm real curious on if you've been able to adapt it.
Absolutely. So the first LLMs were were purely text to text, and it was trained on pure text data. So since no one ever wrote a whole book about how you need to position every single finger when you grab a water bottle, that's why we can't learn this from text. That's why LLMs as they were cannot help here. However, we are now in an era where we go to multimodal LLMs, where we also have them learn in context with text and images, so they get a better understanding of objects. And the next step, these trainings are happening right now on the biggest computers in the world, where we train these foundation models also on video modalities. And when you start training them also on video, then suddenly the model also starts understanding dynamics, when this contact happens, how to grab it. And so as we train them on more and more of these modalities, they can also then reason more in these modalities. But your question is absolutely right. I mean, right now, our architecture is also like this, that the foundation model only does the reasoning about what action should happen. And then there's a lower level, I call it here fast controller, that is actually executing the motion. So right now, it's two.
Got plenty of time for questions. Raise your hand if you have one. I'll bring the mic.
Hi. Apple just released a study in the last week claiming that LLMs actually can't do reasoning, that they're just doing a kind of pattern matching. What's your take on that?
I actually think pattern matching brings us pretty far. Maybe some scientists release tomorrow that humans also only pattern match and don't reason. Yeah.
Any other questions?
There are some subtleties around how good are these models at causality. And yes, there's ways to go.
So if you identify a problem that nobody solved that you're looking to solve, especially with making a humanoid robotic, you know you want to solve it, you're not sure what to do. What's kind of your next step to getting inspiration and figuring out how you want to start tackling it?
Naya, the fun thing is I started kind of thinking about it and working on it 5 years ago, where not many people thought of humanoids. So to me, the blueprint was always this reaching human level performance. And so this always guides me in what is the next step of development, to just compare where is technology today, and then not focus on making technology better in the areas where it's already good at. Lots of engineering goes this way, but actually look at the areas where technology is just not good enough yet. And that's why I flagged these examples of the hand development, of the touch sensing development, and then also the reasoning and the learning about contacts and physical interactions on the software side. Yeah.
Still got time for a couple more questions.
Thank you. Awesome talk. So I'm kind of curious, you know, when we talk about LLMs, a lot of the really funny things that we see are the hallucinations, the errors, the mistakes and things like that. They're almost correct, but not. I'm curious what that looks like in this situation. If you have a robot that goes off the rails or something like that, and sort of its reaction, and how you go about in your system correcting for that and minimizing the occurrence.
So the biggest argument against LLMs is often this hallucination. And hallucination grows exponentially as you continue the output, simply speaking. And the fun thing is, if you deploy the first output of the foundation model into the real world and then right away get sensor feedback on how that was, you're not going off on this exponential ramp of nonsense because you constantly get feedback of how. So if I made an action plan that I want to throw this water bottle to you, right? And in my plan, I kind of grab here and then throw it that way. That goes horribly wrong. But since I execute it in the real world, I kind of see, oh, I'm not grabbing the water bottle. Let me correct for this. So there's a chance, actually. So it's a bit different in robotic settings. Mm-hmm.
Time for a couple more questions.
Hi. Thanks again for the presentation. I'm wondering what you make of the people voting for R2-D2. I mean, people like things that are cute in their homes, which are often not humanoid, right? Like, I don't think we would be super psyched to have like little hobbits running around our house, but like cats we love.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the only robot today that really had success in homes was the Roomba, and it is almost a little bit like a chopped off R2-D2. So in this sense, you're absolutely right. It's just at some point you run into affordance issues. So the Roomba just can't help you with so many things. But I totally agree with you. Getting this technology into homes is going to be a long game. But there are shortcuts when you think about elder care, for example, because there the motivation is just so strong to have a system that can help a person out of bed, that can help with finding stuff, bringing the medication, helping prepare food, give food. And yeah, so these I see, that's kind of where I see the staircase and how this technology can show its use to us, and then we also embrace it.
Time for maybe one or two more questions.
Will they turn evil? Do they have the power to do that?
I started by naming the company Kind Humanoid because no, it is something we should really take serious. So I mean, my background is actually physics. I'm painfully aware of that opening boxes to new abilities in this world can take in different ways, and that's also really, it was actually one reason why I wanted to come here today, because I want to motivate people to work towards the inspiring side of it and not get sucked into the wrong kind of application just because it pays well enough or something like this. So let's make all sure. Let's work all on this, right?
There's two parts to this that are very closely related. How do you distinguish between junk science and maybe vaporware or alternative physics like quaternion physics? How do you sort all that stuff out?
Sorry, I think I didn't catch the connection between vaporware and quaternion physics. Just if you raise your voice.
How do you sort out the difference between junk science or maybe vaporware that doesn't exist but sounds very good, and alternatives like quaternion physics that might sound very unrational to somebody in Newtonian physics?
So in terms of, just to comment on vaporware kind of stuff, I mean, everyone is trying right now, and everyone pushes out video like crazy, and some of those videos showing humanoids do all kinds of stuff, some of them you gotta take with a grain of salt, because maybe that's an experiment that only works once, or it is an experiment where actually there's a teleoperator in the back doing it, and it's not real. In terms of, but the pieces are there now, like the reasoning power from LLMs, the mechanical capabilities. I think this is the time to make this technology happen, and we can do it.
That's a great note to end it on. Thanks, Christoph. Let's give him another round of applause.
Thanks.